Right, so today I want to make a video on the coronavirus, give some updates, kind of give my thoughts on it and whatnot. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on with this. Um, I have a ton of stuff to mention. I hope I all remember it, and I want to try to keep the video pretty short. So let's hop right into it. And first, let's mention that just this morning, Canada has limited inbound flights. Basically, they say they want to. What exactly do they say here? We're looking to reduce the number of airports that will accept travelers from overseas in order to give people the proper resources on all arrivals to ensure we're doing enough everything we can to keep Canada safe. We're also obviously looking at countries of origin and further measures we can take. We will make these decisions based on the best science, best recommendation of our health officials. I'm not going to read the whole article. You can go check it out if you want. But basically, to first update the Canadian response to this, um, I was gonna make a video about this yesterday, but I was busy with work, so I'm gonna do it today. They, as of yesterday, they literally were doing pretty much nothing. Now they're quote unquote limiting flights, which I don't really know what that means. Like I say, they say they want to reduce the amount of airports accepting people from these countries, but it makes no sense. And like I say, I have to call out the Canadian government with this. And please don't give me the, oh, you're just hating on Trudeau. Like, come on. I don't even think the Trump government's gone far enough. Now they've banned travel, like they've outright banned travel from Europe, Iran, or the Middle East, China, I believe. And that's exactly what should be done. Like, there should be no travel from any country that has had an outbreak of coronavirus. Any more than a handful of cases, I would say travel should be outright banned until further notice. Um, Now, again, like I say, I don't want this to come off as being biased, but the states' response has definitely been better than Canada. And to be fair, I don't even think the states has gone far enough. So, like I say, I got to call the Canadian government out on this kind of stuff because what are we doing? Why have, I mean, this should have been done probably 3, 4 days ago at least. Why have we not banned flights from, namely, Italy, Iran, China? Like, why have we not done it? And this whole, oh, we're gonna, put resources in place to check people. Well, how can you do that? This virus can take up to, I think I've heard, upwards of 24 days to show symptoms, basically. So what did you're gonna quarantine people for that long? Like, I haven't announced that or heard that announced, but to me, it's just Canadian government completely dropping the ball on this kind of stuff. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, okay, well, how worried should we be about it as Canadians? And my opinion is should be a little bit more worried than the average person. Now, you have people on one end of the spectrum that it's the people that are literally like, I mean, you have the preppers, which, I mean, they are what they are. But you have the people going out and buying, massive amounts of toilet paper and food and water. But that's one thing I want to bring up too, just while I'm here. I don't understand, why are people buying so much toilet paper? Like, you have a year's supply of toilet paper, but you got a 1 month supply of food and water. Like, please, like, and not to mention too, you're just making more and more of a panic. Like, um, I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and I think it was 2 days ago. And I'm from a small town about an hour out of Edmonton, and she said, "Yeah, there's people coming from the city to buy toilet paper and to buy stuff, mainly toilet paper from a small town an hour out of the city. Like, that's how desperate some people are." So those kind of people too, that too much panic. Like, number one, you should have some food and water. Okay, prepping up with at least, I would say, 2, 3 months worth of food and water. Very smart. And as far as the toilet paper goes, buy one extra thing. Like, let's say you buy one a month, you go through one a month, buy two. Okay, that's not going to create this mass shortages. People aren't going to have to drive an hour out of the city to find stuff. Like, yeah, like, just buy a little bit more than what you normally buy. That's all you got to do. And buy food that has a good shelf life. Like, I don't want almonds, rice, stuff, like I say, stuff that has a good shelf life. Um, but basically, that's what you want to do as far as that stuff goes. And like I say, getting back to how worried should we be? We should definitely be worried. And like I say, on the other end of the spectrum, there's the people that are, oh, the flu kills more. Or the flu, we have more cases of the flu every year, and why are we so worried about it? Like I said, to me that makes it's not a legitimate argument because although yeah, the flu does have more cases, the flu number one, you're you have about a 3.5% chance of dying from the coronavirus. At least that's the number I heard recently. And you have about a 0.2% chance of dying from the flu, which basically equates to you have 1,000 cases, you're gonna have two people die from the flu, you're gonna have 35 die from the coronavirus. So that's a lot more. You know, you're more than 10 times, 15 times, roughly 15, 16, 17 times more likely to die from this. So this whole comparing it to the flu is complete nonsense. Um, do I think that some of these I mean, pretty much every major sports league has suspended play? To me, I think that's going a little overboard, but it's something you have to do. I mean, namely the NBA, they have two or three players that even have it now. So, I mean, I think it's something you need to do. I think that they could have made do by just playing with no fans. But again, I think that with something like this, and like I say, with the original video that I made on this, which I think was like a month ago, like it was a long time ago. And like I say, if we would have did what a lot of the things that I would have said, namely, closing the borders, being a little overreacting. You always want to err on the side of caution, basically, is the best way of putting it. And that's what we should be doing, which is why I think we should be closing the borders, or at least, banning travel from all the countries that have had major outbreaks. Like I say, namely Italy, Iran, South Korea, China, just off the top of my head, those are the major ones, I think. But basically, to bring it full circle, Canadian government completely dropping the ball when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, limiting travel, yeah, that's a good first step, but flights, travel should be completely banned from these countries, or at the very least, mandatory quarantine periods if you want to do it. And I mean, if you make people do that, then they're probably not going to want to do it anyway because you'd have to give them 3 weeks. So that's what should be done. As far as how panicked we should be, you definitely should be a little bit scared. Like if it gets, I mean, in Alberta, I think we only have like 3 or 4 cases. I'm not 100% sure, but if it gets any worse, the problem is that it can spread very, very fast. Like in Italy the other day, the amount of cases literally doubled overnight. And if that happened, I mean, I believe it doubled to another day. So this kind of stuff, you can go from 4 or 5 cases to hundreds within a matter of a week or two, and you could go from a matter of 100 cases to over 1,000 in 3 or 4 days. So that's the problem with this kind of stuff, is you need to be really concerned. So basically, you definitely, if you don't, I mean, it would be smart to have some food and water on hand already. Like I say, stocking up on toilet paper when you have a month's worth of food and water makes absolutely no sense. You ain't going to be going to the bathroom if you're not eating and drinking. So that's the first thing you should be concerned about. It's a lot easier to ration toilet paper than it is food and water, because you need food and water to get to live. You don't necessarily need toilet paper. So it makes no sense. But like I say, that's kind of another issue. But basically, that I just wanted to make a video updating things because I should be talking more about it, but I mean, basically, honestly, there's not a whole lot to talk about. Like, I mean, I'm not an expert on the virus and stuff like that, so I don't want to get into that kind of stuff. But it's very simple. We should just ban travel. At the very least, have mandatory quarantine periods and harsh punishments for people who break them, because a lot of people are breaking them. So there should be, like, I mean, I think literally jail time should be, if people break these quarantines from these countries, especially people that have the virus, people who test positive for the virus and break quarantine, that should be a decent amount of time in jail, like seriously, because you're putting other people's lives at risk, like really. But anyway, that's another topic in and of itself. But yeah, yeah. Um, you should definitely stock up on food and water, but don't go crazy, because if you go crazy, the next guy is going to be like, hey, that guy's going crazy. And, eventually, people are going to notice that. They're going to go crazy. The next guy's going to go crazy. And, that's going to cause, mass, food shortages. There's going to be fights. There's going to be, craziness that doesn't necessarily need to exist. And by getting out ahead of the curve, by buying stuff now sooner rather than later, let's say that there is hundreds or thousands of cases in Canada or even in Alberta. Okay, well then people are going to start to panic, and you've already stocked up on food and water, so you don't got to worry. You don't got to go out there and worry about fighting with some guy to get a case of water. You already got it. So that's what I would suggest for people. And again, I'm not an expert on any of this kind of stuff. I'm just